Because religious actors, whether they are religious leaders, religious institutions, religious non-governmental organizations that do development and humanitarian work, constitute a very important part of the social, political, cultural, and economic framework of our lives. 84% of people around the world admit to or affiliate openly to a particular religion. So religions matter deeply in our lives, not only because of the values and the gatekeeping about cultural and social norms, which obviously religions do, but also because actually, if you look at basic social services around the world, healthcare, education, sanitation, nutrition, it's religious organizations that provide them everywhere around the world. The average is 35% of basic social services being provided through religious institutions and services. This means that you and I have a very strong likelihood of having gone to a religious institution at some point in time, religious schools and universities, which are amongst the most accomplished. So religions generally matter hugely to the infrastructure of our lives. This is a reality that has nothing to do with the Western European world, where they think that they have put religion aside, and in fact they have not. But the perception is not the same as the reality. So because religions matter, and because religious leaders and political leaders are working very closely together in many parts of the world, you can see today, whether it is the war in Ukraine, there is a collusion between the Russian Orthodox Church and the Russian presidency. Whether it is in the context of Israel-Palestine, you can see a very strong collusion between the political leadership and usually right-wing extremist religious leadership on all sides of the divide. Everywhere you look, religious institutions, religious leaders, and religious rhetoric play a very critical role in the political, social, and cultural fabric. So yes, religious leaders matter a great deal, if only because they bear a responsibility towards the rest of the society, but also because many of them are in very important positions of influence. So they are just as culpable, just as accountable to the populace as the average political leader. Precisely because religion is weaponized, it has to be part, those who speak and advocate and work in its realms have to be part of the solutions that are being on the table. We cannot dismiss religion since it's being weaponized. We can't dismiss and say we can't do anything with it. It's precisely because it is being weaponized that we have to find alternative ways of working with religious institutions and religious leaders and diverse religious actors. By the way, they make the secular actors look like they're a tiny minority. The general, the norm, the average is the religious actors. Precisely because they have a role to play in harm, they also have a very critical role to play in good. And if we look historically, we will find that there are religious leaders and religious rhetoric that's being used to do harm, but there is also the normal, the mainstream, which is religious rhetoric and religious services, as I was just saying, that are actually used to serve populations and to make peace and build peace and social cohesion. It's not a one-sided equation. They play a role on all ways. When religious leaders and religious institutions work together across the different religious, political, social, cultural divides, there's a very different tempo, norm, nature to that form of existence and engagement than there is to the religious leaders who do not work interreligiously or collaboratively. They are very different beings, just like if you and I do not collaborate, we are not the same as others who do, right? So there is a different nature to interfaith religious leaders who collaborate. Precisely that domain, the interfaith domain, the multi-religious domain, is the opportunity, the catalyst for doing good. And those are the areas that I hold responsible when we don't hear them speak out against violations of human rights, because they should be the ones speaking out. If you're committed to working together across your religious differences, which are serious and plenty, but if you're committed to working together, you should be committed to upholding what is right and what is just. At a minimum, you should be committed to speaking out. Today, if you look at what's happening in Gaza, you see that Israeli human rights organizations have spoken out to take responsibility, to point and say this is a genocide. We have yet to see a single interfaith organization actually stand up and say that. So I hold them accountable to that. You should be able to speak truth to power because you are part of the power. It isn't important for us to feel that we are fraternal towards one another. That is the bare minimum of human coexistence. It is very important that we serve each other's justice and rights. that I take into account your rights, you take into account my rights. It is very important that we both and all, as we work together in the space of human fraternity, we enact that fraternity on the basis of our community of justice and our rights. You cannot simply be nice to one another all the time. In fact, fraternity is tested most when things are tough, when conflicts are ongoing. What is it that distinguishes various domains of fraternity from various domains of actual active social cohesion and peace building is when fraternity is about service to others, not just to ourselves, but to others, to make sure that social justice and the human rights of all is equally observed. That is fraternity in action, and that's what we're missing. We have all the laws, we have all the institutions, we have all the norms, we have all the language. What we don't have is a fraternity joined in service to all on the basis of human rights and social justice.